expressed dissatisfaction with President Jacob Zuma's cabinet reshuffle. Now, to talk about this and more, of course, I'm joined by political analyst Dr. Piet Croucamp here in studio this morning. Very good morning to you. I'm sure you've just listened to what Mr. Mantashe said. Interesting about there was discussion around the finance minister position, but the rest were a little bit surprised. Are you surprised by that?
No, but I think the last time that we have seen that there was some sort of a separation between the presidency and the interest of the presidency and that of the ANC was exactly the last time that Thabo Mbeki was calling the shots in the ANC. And that was the reason why he eventually was removed, because it was assumed that he's designed a sort of imperial presidency at the expense of the interest of the ANC.
Yeah.
I think we see something similar.
There's talk of this division within the ANC. How do you see this division? What is the picture that you can paint for us?
Well, it happens. It all depends on what's going to happen in the next few weeks, or even the next week. But if we listen to Gwede Mantashe, it seems like there's no deliberate effort to mobilize against what has happened and the type of monopoly that the presidency has designed for itself on authority. So nothing might happen if the rand don't collapse a lot further, if the bond markets don't collapse a lot further. It might be that many of the power players within the ANC, such as Cyril Ramaphosa, for instance, might think that we're in this for the long haul. We have a leadership election conference at the end of the year. Maybe we should mobilize ourselves and position ourselves with that in mind, as opposed to now acting directly against the president. So it's quite possible that nothing may happen.
It's a question. So you think there might be, because it's such a landmark year ahead, it could be a thing of bigger battles ahead to fight, and we'll have to make sure that we get to those battles.
Exactly, and I think the thing is, if the section that mobilized around Cyril Ramaphosa, if they want to assume power at the end of the year, if they want to take control of the ANC, they will have to think very, very carefully. Do you go via the route of removing Jacob Zuma now, or going after Jacob Zuma now, or do you go for the bigger picture? And the fact is, I think what might concern them is that Jacob Zuma has used this cabinet reshuffle to strengthen his position, not only within the cabinet, but you will also see that many of the deputies that he has chosen are relatively unknown names, and they all come, or most of them come from the NEC, which means he has, and at the same time, he has strengthened his position in the NEC, because that's his biggest fear. Remember, it's only the NEC that can remove him from power as the ANC president. So by selecting some of the individuals within the NEC to be deputy ministers in his cabinet, he's also increased the numbers or the support of people within the NEC. So I think he's moved in various power bases to consolidate his position.
We, of course, have a confirmed report here at the SABC that Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa and Gwede Mantashe himself walked out of last night's meeting, the cabinet meeting. How do you view that kind of walkout, and what kind of precedent do you think that sets in the next couple of days running into next week, as you said?
It might well be. The other thing is, I think when somebody spoke to Gwede this morning, he said, well, it's just time to leave. The president is announcing his cabinet, and I think business has been set up. So it's difficult to say, but what I think is, again, when they walked out together, they will probably have stood somewhere in the hallway and say, okay, what next? And the bigger picture might have been more important, or they could say, well, it's possible for us to, within the next week, to start to act against the president. I think the safer option for them is the longer haul. And it looks like, if you listen to what Gwede Mantashe is saying, is as if they go for the bigger picture.
Yeah. Bigger fish to fry, as it were. I've just got a report coming in now that the DA are saying, of course, that they are now going to court to stop the swearing in of these new ministers. I'm sure it's not unexpected, but what do you think? What does that mean? And what is the game now for the opposition with regards to this?
It's one of those things. I think the opposition should stay out of the fight here. I can't see any legal grounds for stopping the president to announce his or to change his cabinet, unless, of course, they go after individuals and say some of them have been compromised, they've been mentioned in the public protector's report. But remember, none of these people have been found guilty of these things. It's all investigations, it's all mentioned in public protector's reports, etc. I can't see it. I think they're trying to get into the public space instead of really having the hopes of changing a lot of things now.
Are you surprised that the analysts, the experts and the analysts here in South Africa over the last week or so got it so far wrong with regards to the appointments, with regards to what's happened, and even with regards to the mass resignations and the storming of the castle from within?
Well, we're in perfect company. So was Gwede Mantashe last night, and so was Cyril Ramaphosa last night. Everybody's surprised, and I think it's because the president played his cards very close to his chest. He probably had one or two confidants that he shared his information with, considered the list of possible ministers and deputy ministers, but it was just one or two people that he had to bring. And I think Mr. Manglobo may have been one of them. But the fact remains is, not even the top 6 of the ANC knew what was going on.
There were lots of leaks in the run-up to this. Leaks out of cabinet meetings, leaks from even overseas trips, leaks from other meetings and the like. Are you surprised that there's so many leaks in this year specifically?
No, it's always been like this. I think you must remember that those who oppose the president, his enemies, will from time to time leak every information they get, and much of it might be rumor. As you see, he's played his card so close to his chest. Most of the cabinet ministers didn't even know what was going on. So, and I think if they think they're close to the fire, they like to speculate about things. It's almost like an army camp. If you really want to see chaos, start a rumor. The most absurd rumor you can start, and it will spread like a wildfire. Exactly the same thing happens with politicians when they get into the room, 400 or 500 of them, and they start speculating about what's going on in the mind of the president, especially since the stakes are so high sometimes.
Yeah. Malusi Gigaba is now the man in the hot seat, of course, and it's going to be a hot seat because I'm sure the media is going to have a field day with him over the next couple of months. What do you think he needs to do in order to, I don't know, fight for credibility in the financial space?
Well, unfortunately, we'll have to repeat the words that Pravin Gordhan has uttered, and that is that we will go for good governance, we'll go for efficient governments, we will try to save more, we will encourage economic growth. You will have to use all the words that Pravin Gordhan has used, but there are other things that he will have to do today that might give us some idea where he's going. Today is the last day for the signing of the transfer of the Habib Bank, which will give the Guptas access to financial institutions again after the 4 big banks have withdrawn. By tonight at 12 o'clock, I would like to have seen if Malusi Gigaba has signed that document which says the bank can now transfer ownership. If he's done that, then we know exactly where he's going. It's the last day for him to do it. I'm sure from our section world, he will get a call today saying, please sign.
That's the first test, you say? That's the first?
I think it's a big one.
The first test. I want to quickly talk about the police ministry, because here in South Africa we're all worried about the police ministry and the policing of our streets and the safety, and we know, of course, about crime and all these sorts of things. What do you make of the appointment then of Fikile Mbalula in this space?
Well, it's more or less the same feeling that I had when Becky Kelly was appointed. It's a politician, it might be a grassroots politician, but of the organisation and the structure of policing, they have very little understanding, and there's probably going to be a lot of politics in the policing in South Africa, and that's the last thing we need now. With Commissioner Paghlane, I think we've approached a more technocratic approach towards policing. It's important that the minister should allow that type of approach to continue. Mr. Nhleko was now removed. I'm not sure. He's a very close confidant of the president. I'm quite surprised that he was removed. But the fact is, we have another politician who might not necessarily give credence to technocratic approaches to policing.
I've got a million more questions. I'm going to ask you one more. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma not being touched or mentioned in any shape or form in this reshuffle. 2
things. The president is only allowed to have 2 members from outside the National Assembly in his cabinet, and as far as I know, there's already 2 people. So he will have had to remove one of those people. The second thing is, you will know that when Pravin Gordhan returned from London, he went to Luthuli House, and somewhere in the background, Dlamini Zuma was also operating. She was there. She was the only one that's from the Zuma camp that at that specific moment was walking around in Luthuli House seeing Gwede Mantashe. I wouldn't be surprised if she said, this is not the way I want to enter competitive politics. If I want to become president, this is the last possible way for me to be successful. I don't want any of this. I will enter it through another door.
You think she's respectfully declined the entire process?
I think so. She also declined to see the Guptas a while ago. So I think she's really trying to clean up the base before she operates.
Dr. Croucamp, thank you very much for joining us today. Interesting views on, well, what's been a landmark day in South African politics. No doubt about that. That's political analyst Dr. Piet Croucamp telling us what he thinks about what has happened in the last 24 hours here